Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 227. How'd you spend your morning? I spent mine arguing with folks on the internet. After on Tuesday, I said, don't argue with people on the internet. This was a little different, though. This wasn't anonymous strangers. This is supposed experts talking down to me. I think that there is an element of maybe because of the job I have or how I carry myself or whatever the reasons are, that some of these folks think that I can't get down in the analytical streets the way they can. No, the idea that you're going to all of a sudden be able to outsmart me in one of these arguments, it would be insulting if it weren't so amusing, and that is actually where we're going to start the show when we talk about the Bills. But first, what missed the cut? Malachi Flynn and his career 5-point-per-game average dropped 50 points off the bench last night. Angel Reese declares for the WNBA draft, and Bill Nye shines in an Eclipse photo shoot. Eclipse Day is what, Monday? Eclipse is coming up. Damonza's got his Eclipse sunglasses on. Those look great. I like those better than last week's sunglasses, or than Tuesday's sunglasses. Damonza, how are you? Oh, they're Victor's. Oh, nice of Victor. Very
Victor
good.
made the call.
Yeah, and I've got to get you yours before I see you next week. By the way, we've referenced it a few times on the show. I just want there to be no confusion. I keep referencing a wedding that I'm having. I'm obviously married. Little personal life context before we then get to the show. Danielle and I, when we got married 11 years ago, but didn't have a wedding, I then promised her, because we didn't have any money for it, that when we had the money on our 10-year anniversary, we would actually, I think we might have said 5-year anniversary, and then even at the 5-year anniversary, didn't quite have I thought I had the money at the 5-year anniversary, but I underestimated what this wedding was going to entail. So then we kicked it 5 more years, said, all right, 10-year anniversary, we'll do the big, giant, awesome wedding called a vow renewal. 10-year anniversary came last year. It was Diora's high school graduation. We had other stuff going on. So we kicked it 1 more year. And now, next week, my wife and I are actually getting married, even though we've already been married. We're doing it in Kansas City. So when we refer to the wedding, where I'll see Damonza, where Damonza is co-best man along with Danny Parkins, I will see him there, and he'll get his sunglasses there. Thank you to everyone in the control room saying congratulations. It is a weird thing. Your mom, not shockingly, said we should do a gift registry. I said, I think that is a little improper. I think it's a little rude. I don't think we can ask people for gifts for our wedding when we've been married for 11 years, but it'll be great. Damonza, you're doing well this morning?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
All right, let's get
excited for the wedding.
You as well? You look great. Let's get right into it.
Thank you, sir. So the Bills continue to tear it down. They just lost Stefon Diggs yesterday, as you all heard. He went to the Texans. So now Josh Allen won't be winning any quarterback debates against Patrick Mahomes with these wide receivers. What's his wide receiver room look like? It's his top guys, probably Shakir
Curtis
right now.
Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Matt Collins, Justin Shorter, KJ Hamler, Andy Isabella, Brian Thompson, Tyrell Shavers right now. They'll assuredly draft a wide receiver. There's a lot of butterfly ripple effects from this that we'll get to, but go ahead.
All right, so it seems like you might have been correct about the Bills all along. You know, feel free to scream, I told everybody so, and I'll grab my abacus for when you start to talk about the dead cap hit for Stefon Diggs.
Well, the dead cap's pretty simple. It was going to cost them $28 million on the cap for him to be on the team. Instead, it's going to cost them $31 million for him to be off the team. And it's the highest dead cap hit for any non-quarterback ever, but that's not the story here. And Damonza, you're right that the story for our listeners is that I told you so about the Buffalo Bills. But that is not how some are taking it. So I want to take you to the Twitter streets this morning that I was arguing with, again, folks who make their living writing about football. So it started with Timo Risk from Pro Football Focus. Pro Football Focus, which is plastered all over Sunday Night Football. Their teams use their ratings. This is a real expert, okay? He is talking down to Warren Sharp, calling Warren Sharp a casual for dunking on the Bills, explaining how the Stefon Diggs initial trade and era was actually good for the Bills, which, by the way, it might have been. Like, if you want to say that the Diggs 4 years, Allen elevating his play, you paid Diggs $20 million a year, you traded a first for him that turned into Justin Jefferson, that part's not great, but you got him in the building. Allen all of a sudden elevated to the best play of his career that first year with him. You were a relevant team, you had excellent regular seasons, you had excruciating postseasons, and now eventually you're going to get a second-round pick back for him. Fine. But I thought that it was dismissive of Warren Sharp. So I quote tweeted it because in that tweet, one of the things Timo said is elevated their fringe playoff team status to, quote, being a, well, he said but I won't be a grammar, sycophant there, being a perennial Super Bowl contender. And I write, quote, perennial Super Bowl contender. In the 4 years with Diggs, the following teams got closer to winning a Super Bowl. And what I'm about to tell you is unimpeachable fact that for some reason folks are still in denial about. So the Bills had Diggs for 2020, 21, 22, 23. In those 4 years, the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Bucks all won a Super Bowl. Chiefs won 2. Do we all agree that winning the Super Bowl is closer to winning the Super Bowl than not? Okay, yes. Check them off. The Niners, the Bengals, and the Eagles all played in the Super Bowl. Do we all agree that playing in a Super Bowl, by the way, they all lost close Super Bowls, as did the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl in this run as well, but it got blown out. Do we all agree that playing in a Super Bowl is closer to winning a Super Bowl than not playing in a Super Bowl? Yes. Now we're at 6. Okay. What's the closest you can come to making a Super Bowl but not making it? Well, playing in the conference championship game and losing on a heartbreaker? Okay. Or losing close. Detroit played a nail-biter conference championship game, was up 17 and lost by a score. Green Bay played a nail-biter conference championship game that came down 5, have a third down against Brady, get off the field, but a flag comes. That's close. Baltimore driving to be down 3, leaping for the goal line, fumble the football. Is that close? Okay. The Bills in this time frame played in 1 conference championship game, got beat by 3 scores. All right. So that is Kansas City, the Rams, the Bucks, the Niners, the Bengals, the Eagles, the Lions, the Packers, and the Ravens. 9 teams in a 32-team league, so more than a quarter of the league got closer than the Bills did. That's what I wrote. And this is now where I get fired up. Timo replies to this. Oh, yeah, I also did a cursory rankings. And let's stay there, and then I'll get to this other part. Cursory rankings of teams and their success during the Diggs-Allen era. The Chiefs obviously in first place, right? Won 2 Super Bowls, went to a third. Tampa, second place. 2 trips to the divisional round and won a Super Bowl. The Rams, third place. Multiple playoff appearances and won a Super Bowl. The Niners, fourth place. 3 trips to the conference championship game, including a Super Bowl appearance. The Bengals, fifth place. 2 trips to the conference championship game and a Super Bowl appearance. The Eagles, 6th place. Multiple playoff appearances. 3, I think, maybe 4. 3, 4, doesn't matter. Went to a Super Bowl. Baltimore, 7th place. Multiple trips to round 2 of the playoffs and a close conference championship game. Green Bay, 8th place. A conference championship game loss, and then 2 other appearances in round 2. And then Buffalo 9th place, Dallas 10th place. If you want to parse Green Bay versus Buffalo, fine. So they would be either 8, 9, or 10, somewhere in there. The Bills' resume is 1 trip to the conference title game where they got blown out, a close round 2 loss, a blowout round 2 loss, and then another close round 2 loss. So I write that. And Timo says, here is a list of teams, and this is where I lose my mind, who were considered among realistic potential Super Bowl winners when January arrived every single year over the last 4 years. Chiefs, Bills. End of list, end of story, end of any reasonable discussion. So let me set aside the patronizing tone and let me explain this.
It's unfortunate I missed this.
Just because you speak it, just because you say it does not make it true. Just because you decided that the Bills were realistic Super Bowl contenders does not mean they were. This year, the Bills team that started 6-6 was never a realistic Super Bowl contender. I know you so desperately pleaded and claimed they were, but they weren't. And you saw it in their first playoff game. You saw it in week 17 or whenever it was when they struggled to beat, who the hell was Easton Stick and the Chargers. You saw it in their first playoff game when they struggled to beat Mason Rudolph. And you saw it when they lost another home playoff game. Last year, when a Bills team at home got annihilated by a team that then lost in the next round in Cincinnati, they were not a realistic Super Bowl contender. In 2020, when they almost lost to ancient Phillip Rivers and the Colts in round 1 and then got annihilated by the Chiefs in round 3, they were not a realistic Super Bowl contender. You said they were, but they weren't. 2021, they were a realistic contender. They didn't get there. In fact, they lost to a team that then lost in the next round, and the team that won that game then lost in the next round.
I'm going to jump
closest
in. Can
they
the
ever
argument
came.
Go the other way. With
Go ahead.
You say it just because you say it doesn't make it true. Because like there was a chance that they could get there and by off chance, win a couple games in a row and magically be in the Super Bowl with a little bit of luck. But like people were saying that they were Super Bowl contenders because of the folks that they had on the team, and like how they got to, they just couldn't get it done.
And what I'm saying is, at some point the games have to matter. At some point, the results are in. And in 2020, you weren't that close because you got dog walked in the conference championship game by a team that then lost the Super Bowl by 3 scores, right? In 2021, I do think you were really close, but you lost a coin flip game, that's the 13 seconds game, to a team that then lost in the next round to the Bengals. And then that Bengals team lost in the next round. So your best team lost to the team that lost to the team that lost to the team. The next year, you got annihilated by a team in Cincinnati in your building that then lost the next round. And this year you were, which was your worst year and you were injured, all that, you got beat in your building by a team that ended up winning the Super Bowl. So no, they weren't one game away in any of these spots. Flip a result and explain to me why they then win the Super Bowl. They weren't a game away. 3 of the 4 years, they didn't even lose to the eventual champion. The 1 year they did this year, they lost to the eventual champion, and it was in their building in round 2. So I replied to that to get back to the perennial Super Bowl contender discussion. Oh, wait, no. That's not even what I want to go to here, because that's not what really got me fired up. Kevin Cole, who I was like, where do I know this name, Kevin Cole, from? And he used to be with Pro Football Focus. Now he does other football stuff. But it was because he condescended to Steven Ruiz on Twitter a few months ago, and I jumped in because Kevin Cole asserted with all of his chest that Lamar Jackson actually not that valuable. That was where I knew him from. So I'm going to hold on. I'm going to read it to you so you guys know I'm not making this up. The tweet was this was when we were talking about the MVP discussion. You can make all kinds of legitimate arguments that Lamar has outplayed his numbers, but I wonder how many people recognize the ground truth can't really be disputed. Plays he's been involved, he being Lamar Jackson, he's been involved in, haven't been particularly valuable this season. Okay, I mean,
Lamar Jackson is who Josh Allen, who people say Josh Allen are. Like, he's this amazing.
Well,
during the season, quarterback
what if
makes all these plays.
This amazing. Well, here's the thing: Josh has had some really good playoff games, and they both have their strengths and their weaknesses. And we'll get to Josh in a moment. I'm still arguing with people on the internet, and I want to get back to it. Kevin Cole replies to this guy and says he might not know what perennial means. He is me in that context. And then Timo replies, it's weird how someone would take the word perennial and then look for examples of teams with a, quote, higher noisy peak in terms of a single-year playoff run. And then he replies, it's not weird when you factor in the feedback he gets. If your audience reacts on vibes and not facts and logic, you'll lean into going for vibes and not addressing actual arguments. Okay, so a number of things here. First of all, if you consider the goddamn NFL playoffs and the results of the games a noisy peak, then go fucking do something else for a living. If the results of the playoff games are just a noisy, statistically unimportant data set, then do something else. It's single elimination pro football. You're never going to have an adequate sample size to prove or disprove any of this. It's all a little based on vibes and gut and what you think, because it's not 162 games. You can't run a million simulations. And believe it or not, your absolutely sacrosanct algorithms might not be able to fully factor for everything that goes into winning or losing football games. So that's first point. The second point is, don't condescend to the audience or to me. And the idea that, his dumb audience of people who watch and enjoy football, those dumb people that look at football as a form of entertainment, they react to this stuff. Us smart guys understand it's far more than it. Then what is it? Is it just preseason Super Bowl odds? Is it just Super Bowl win expectancy as spat out by the 538 computers in September, and everything else is just noise? Like, the arrogance to believe your preconceived notions, once proven wrong, were actually right, and you just didn't have the right number of simulations to prove it. Get out of here. Some of us saw a team who was overly reliant on a superhuman at quarterback who tended to still trace back to some of his most juvenile mistakes. Folks, for years, have poked fun at the fact that I still bring up that Josh Allen, in the waning moments of the first playoff game he ever played in, threw a ball backwards over his head because he panicked. And that I said, that tells me a lot about who he is. Folks are like, oh my God, Nick, are you serious? And then You're still bringing that up? Well, 5 years later, in the biggest game he ever played against the Kansas City Chiefs at home, the third play of the game, he panicked and threw a forward pass when he was 7 yards past the line of scrimmage to try to get a third down. That ended up working because the refs missed it. And 2 hours later, in the fourth quarter of that game, before the missed field goal, he panicked and tried to stretch for an extra yard and fumbled the ball, and it was bouncing to end the game and end the season. And luckily, a Chiefs player foolishly tried to scoop and score, and the Bills got it back. I don't know how you account for those moments, but they're real. Just like it was real and not accounted for in any of your juvenile, facile, keep them in a damn lab, preseason win probabilities. You know what was real? Stefon Diggs doing this on the sideline to Josh Allen. That was real. You know what was real? Sean McDermott doing this. How concerned am I? Very concerned. I'm very concerned about Stefon Diggs. You know what was real? Stefon's brother saying, get him out of there. It's all real. And this is maybe even more than an argument against the Bills or against those dopes that I argued with on the internet. This is kind of an argument against artificial intelligence, the thrust of AI and robots into our lives versus what human beings know. You watched the Bills and you said, oh boy, Sean McDermott looks nervous. Oh boy, Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs, I can't tell you why specifically it felt in my gut that Diggs and Allen's sideline interactions were more worrisome than Travis Kelce literally assaulting Andy Reid on the sideline, but something in my heart and my head tells me they're different. I can't prove it to you, but I know Travis and Andy love each other and it's going to be fine. And I can't prove it to you, but I know Stefon and Josh are not on the same page. And here we are. And the Bills just got worse. You know how I know they got worse? Their general manager had a press conference yesterday and said, we're worse. That's how I know. And so I'm here to tell you that some of this was not that hard to see coming. And the idea that the Bills had an era is an insult to eras. They were a pretty good team for the last 4 years. They were a touch in this time frame better than the Cowboys and a touch worse than the Packers. That's it. They weren't some juggernaut. It was never Brady, Manning, Mahomes, Allen. It's an insult to everyone in that conversation to say that. They weren't the Chiefs' biggest threat. You know how I know? Because the team with the better quarterback and the, I can't believe I'm saying this, steadier coach with a defense that instead of every year being great in the regular season and falling apart in the playoffs, was mediocre in the regular season and excellent in the playoffs. In Cincinnati, that team actually beat Kansas City. And I understand that the AFC title game results are, a noisy peak. But it's the way we measure athletes and teams, guys. And now, here is the thing. I will tell you. There is a chance for the biggest Josh Allen fans, Damonza, to be able to get their get back and to be able to use a lot of my quotes against me. And you know how?
By Josh Allen performing, huh?
Well, yeah, now it's a fair fight, right? It's Allen Mahomes. Mahomes Allen. 1A, 1B. 1B, 1A. Okay. How would Patrick Mahomes do if his all-pro wide receiver was traded in the offseason? Well, I don't know. Could that ever happen? Oh, it did happen. Oh, did they replace him with a number one receiver? No, oh, no, they just had to draft somebody or somebodies. So how did that go? Oh, he won the league MVP and then won and was the highest scoring team in the league and won the Super Bowl. And then the next year, with what was considered the worst receiving core, not just in the NFL, but in years of the NFL. That's what I was told all year. This Chiefs team, the receiving core is so bad that a team with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and a great defense, that receiving core is so bad, it will pull the entire team down. Won the Super Bowl again. So, now, this is a great moment for all of the folks who have argued Mahomes-Allen is a real debate. Now, you don't have to deal with the distraction of Stefon Diggs. You don't have to deal with any of that. Go do it. I'm excited to see how this turns out. So here's a question I have for you, Damonza, before we move on to the Texans. And I texted our group today that I was going to try to go a little faster today. We went 25 minutes on the first topic. Can we put up that Stefon Diggs tweet? So here's my question, and I don't know the answer. So Stefon Diggs, the night before he was traded, replies to a tweet from a couple days before saying, does Josh benefit from having a top-tier receiver? Yes. Is it essential to is Diggs essential to Josh's success? No. And Diggs on Tuesday night tweets, you sure? ? Wednesday morning he's traded. So here's my question to you, Damonza. There's not a wrong or right answer here. I'm just kind of doing like a one-person straw poll. Do you think Diggs knew the trade was coming when he sent this? Or do you think him sending this was the last straw that then initiated them to pull the trigger on the trade?
I think Stefon Diggs probably knew he was getting traded.
So you think he already knew?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think he already knew. I mean, I feel like Stefon Diggs has wanted out for a while. I don't know if he tweets that, like in knows in the back of his mind, there's a chance that he could still be on the Bills. I just don't think he'd do that.
So I think so here's the part of it. I think you're right, but what I find intriguing is if he knew, they did a really good job of keeping it quiet. Because there were no leaks that this was coming before it happened. It wasn't like, you know what I mean, potential. You're right that people thought Diggs at some point could be moved, but it wasn't like there were reports the night before where agents got involved.
Doesn't Stefon Diggs strike you as the type of guy to do it a little sly like that?
Yeah, maybe.
I think so.
I mean, okay, so that's where you're at. All right, let's move on now to the Texans side of things. Listen, the Bills, congrats, guys, on your 3 consecutive AFC bronze medals. We'll never see a team like you again. That's not nice. I mean, that's not nice. It is what it is. All right, next.
All right, so on the other side of it, the Texans now have Stefon Diggs, obviously C.J. Stroud on his rookie deal, and they've got Joe Mixon in the running game, and they've beefed up the defense a little bit. With that said, do you think the Texans are the number one threat to the Chiefs in the AFC?
I think you can make a really strong case the Texans are the best team in the AFC other than Kansas City. So I want to talk about the Texans, but I don't want to forget about the butterfly effect part of this that I said. So you want to know my galaxy brain, like butterfly effect of the Diggs trade, Damonza?
What's that?
Something that I now believe the Detroit Lions are going to trade for T. Higgins. So you might say, why? What are the dots there? So the Lions, I think, believe they need a receiver. The Lions are drafting 29. The Bengals are obviously shopping Higgins. They were going to trade Higgins. Or I shouldn't say they were going to trade Higgins.
Did something happen with Amon-Ra St. Brown?
No, but they want a second receiver.
Wanted a wide receiver copy.
The Jameson Williams hasn't really worked out the way they had hoped, and they were connected to wide receivers in the draft, whatever.
Room.
Exactly right. No, to have Amon-Ra and T because to be honest, I think they need some help defensively, but offensively, the offensive line's great. Amon-Ra's great. They just drafted Gibbs. They like Goff. Laporta's excellent. The only spot on the offense you really look at is receiver, and then some help on defense for Aiden Hutchinson. Okay, so I think the Lions were planning at 29 to draft a receiver. Well, who drafts at 28? Buffalo. Now Detroit knows, okay, obviously, Harrison, Neighbors, and Odunze are gone in the top 10. After that, you have A.D. Mitchell, you have Brian Thomas from LSU as the 4th and 5th or 5th and 4th receivers. Buffalo is definitely taking a receiver. So now we're down to drafting the 5th receiver. Pittsburgh is a potential receiver team. Cincinnati, if they trade T. Higgins elsewhere, is a potential receiver team. We could be sitting there at 29 and at best get the 5th receiver and maybe get the 6th or 7th. So I think Detroit now is more likely to trade for T. Higgins. So that's a little kind of butterfly effect piece of it. Now to the Texans. I have seen a lot of, oh my goodness, the Texans, this is a blueprint every team should follow. Okay, well, I mean, if the blueprint was draft a quarterback at 2 and hire the Niners D coordinator as your head coach, then the Jets would be in great shape because they followed that blueprint and they're a disaster. Okay? So also the Texans' blueprint of be truly horrific for 3 consecutive years, and in those 3 years go through 4 different coaches before you finally get the right one. And, oh yeah, by the way, pull off an all-time trade heist in getting 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. My point is that part of the blueprint is not really duplicable. You can't really be like, all right, here's the plan, boys. We're going to get one of the greatest trade hauls ever. We're then going to be truly awful for 3 straight seasons to get even more blue-chip picks, but not quite awful enough to ever have the number 1 pick of the draft. But the team drafting number 1 is going to take the smallest quarterback who's ever played in the NFL. So we're going to get the right guy at number 2. And by the way, we're going to be able to get the hottest coaching prospect on the market because he's a legend for our franchise who played middle linebacker for us and wants to come save the team he played for. That is not something a lot of teams can follow. It's not like you're in Carolina. You're like, all right, boys, here's the plan. We're just going to be awful for a number of years, and then Luke Kuechly is going to come in and save us along with a quarterback we draft. That's not a plan. But the part of the plan that is replicable, I should say, is if you've got that guy at quarterback, spend. Yes. Right. While he's cheap. Go put talent around him. And I think Diggs will be awesome this year. A motivated Stefon Diggs, I think he'll be really good for at least one more year. Age is catching up to him a little bit. But you have Nico Collins, you have Tank Dell coming back from the injury. You have Stefon Diggs, you got maybe the best left tackle in the sport in Tunsil. You're building the defense. I think the Texans are excellent. Excellent. Before this trade, I had them neck and neck with Cincinnati as the biggest threats in the AFC outside of Kansas City. And you know what that means, Damonza? Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for it.
What does that mean? Because I've got a.
You've got one? Go ahead.
I've got a question. No, I've got a question for you, but I'm going to let you finish your thought. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. It's bad. Oh, okay, yeah. So, do you think the Prince will ever win an AFC South game again, or
South title?
Division.
Listen, this offseason not been good for my guy.
Right.
They're not gonna lie. I don't like the moves the Jags have made. The Jags had the number 1 pick. And took Trevor. The next year was so bad, got the number 1 pick again, and they've squandered the whole thing. They're out here signing Gabe Davis to $13 million a year. Trent Baalke keeps getting jobs and keeps being terrible. So yeah, I mean, I think Trevor's awesome, but I think that right now they are not the favorites in their own division. That's for sure. I agree with that piece of it. It's not good for my guy to have this Texans team and CJ in his division. There's no way around it. But to be fair, you're supposed to have at least 2 excellent quarterbacks in each division. The AFC East right now doesn't, and for all this trash I talk on, trash is the wrong word, truth I tell about Josh, he's obviously an excellent quarterback. I don't think they have another excellent quarterback in that division. But the AFC North has Lamar and Burrow. The AFC West has Mahomes and Herbert. The AFC South, it's fair for them to have Stroud and Trevor. But that's not what I was going to get to. What I was going to say is this. So we had Brady Manning. Brady Manning was the thing, right? And then a couple years into Mahomes' career after he won the MVP, and shout out to Pete Sweeney for doing the screenshots of all of these exact conversations over the last 5 years on TV. But we got Mahomes Watson. Is that the new Brady Manning? And then Mahomes annihilated him in a 24-0 playoff game, down 24, ended up, I think winning 51-31. And then, his career kind of went askew after that, crossed him off the list. Then Lamar, unanimous MVP. Lamar beat Mahomes in the regular season. Mahomes-Lamar. Is that the new Brady Manning? And then Lamar had his own postseason struggles, seemed to be over him, and then lost to Mahomes in the playoff game, cross him off the list. Then it was Mahomes-Allen. That's the new Brady Manning. And then Mahomes played him 3 times in the playoffs, beat him all 3 times, crossed him off the list. Then it was Mahomes-Burrow. Oh, my God, Burrow actually won a game. And then Mahomes beat him the AFC title game, and unfortunately Joe Burrow got hurt and his team missed the playoffs, crossed him off the list. We're about to get Mahomes v. Quarterback X version 5.0. Mahomes-Stroud. Is that the new Brady Manning?
I don't know if you can cross Burrow off yet. I don't know if you can cross him off yet. I get he did beat. Okay. Like the Chiefs beat them the last time. But.
Yeah, listen, and it's hard to go undefeated, against a team in the playoffs the way the Chiefs have with the Bills, and so credit to the Bengals. That's fine. I think that Burrow is now all of a sudden coming off a lost season and is probably going to not have T. Higgins, but we'll see. Like that. My point is Stroud's the next man up. But as I told you guys over the last few years, and I will say again, it is not a Brady versus Manning scenario. It is a Tiger versus the field scenario. And you can pick which of these quarterbacks is Vijay Singh, which one's David Duval, which one's Ernie Els, and which one's Phil Mickelson. But it is not Brady Manning. It is Tiger versus the field. All right, let's take a quick break, come back, talk a little Lakers, and play a little Wright-Ins. We'll do all that next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? A little breaking news. Julius Randle having season-ending shoulder surgery, which is, listen, he has been not a good playoff performer, but that's brutal for the Knicks because they did look really good when they were after the OG trade, when they were at full strength, and now you're not going to see that team again. So that's brutal for them. So that's some breaking news for the show. Also, shout out to this show for prematurely being correct about the LSU-Iowa rating. So if you were listening Tuesday, we had the breaking news of this show, of LSU-Iowa, doing 12.2 million people. We brought it to you before anyone had it, including Nielsen, because we misread a tweet about something else. But we reported it as 12.2 million.
Oh, yeah.
We then corrected
Shout out
it like,
to Meg
oh,
on
man.
That, by the way. That was Meg's doing.
Okay, well, exactly, a premonition by Meg. So we then apologized because we thought, oh, man, we got tricked. The official numbers aren't out. Then the official numbers came out, and it was 12.3 million. So we thought Meg had it first, then didn't have it, and then definitely had it first and was right. So unlike the LSU Iowa rating, this is news we have triple check verified. But it turns out we didn't need triple check verify the LSU Iowa rating because we were just 10 hours before everyone on it. Good job by us there. All right, Damonza, let's do Lakers.
Thank you, Megstradamus. The Lakers have been the hottest team in the NBA the past couple of weeks, but they are still at the 9 seed currently. Do you think they have a path out of the play-in, or do they at least have a path to avoid being the bottom of the play-in?
Okay, so this is what's so interesting. The Mavs, Suns, and Pelicans have 45 wins. The Kings and Lakers have 44 wins. So it sounds super close, but it's not. Because you can make up wins, you can't make up losses, right? So the wins don't matter that much. What matters is the losses. The Mavs have 30 losses. The Suns, Pelicans, Kings have 31 losses. The Lakers have 33 losses. Okay? And the Lakers are the 9 seed. So the question is, the Lakers cannot realistically pass 2 teams and get out of the play-in. But you guys know how important I think it is for them to be in the 7-8 part of the play-in versus the 9-10. Can they catch one team? So you go through it and you realize it's harder than you think. So the Kings are the team that I think folks believe they have the best chance of catching. The problem with the Kings is the Lakers lost the tiebreaker to them. So if the Kings and Lakers finish with the same record, the Kings get the higher seed, right? The Suns, the Lakers have the tiebreaker with, but they're playing great basketball right now. They had this really tough stretch of games, but then, they got Denver without Jokic, and so that made it not quite as tough. Are they going to... The Suns, probably not going to catch them. So the team people need to be watching is the New Orleans Pelicans. The Lakers right now have the tiebreaker with New Orleans, and in the final game of the year, they play New Orleans. So what the Lakers need is to play one game better than New Orleans the rest of the way, and then beat New Orleans in the final game of the year. So if you think the Lakers can go, they've got 5 left, 4-1, right? So they're home for Cleveland, home for Minnesota, home for Golden State, at Memphis, at New Orleans. Say they lose Minnesota, which is the second night of a back-to-back, and they win the other games, and they're 48-34. What that means is you need New Orleans to lose 2 of the following: home for San Antonio, at the Suns, at the hopeless Blazers, at the Kings, at Golden State on the second night of a back-to-back. And then they obviously play the Lakers. So if you're hoping the Lakers can move up from 9, at Phoenix, at Sacramento, at Golden State, those 3 games for New Orleans, you need them to lose 2 of them. And you need the Lakers to take care of business and only lose once more the rest of the way. If that happens, they can move up to the 7-8 game and I think go on a real run. If they are stuck in the 9-10 spot and they have to win just to move on to game 2 of the play-in, and then win a road game just to move on to the actual playoffs, to then play a rested for a week 1 seed, no matter who that is, that path I think is not viable. They've got to move up at least 1 spot. If you are in the 9-10 spot, what you basically have to do is win 6 of 9 to get out of round 1. Your back-to-back play-in games, and then 4 of 7 without home court advantage, without a rest advantage at all against a 1 seed. Too hard. So the Lakers are playing great. LeBron is playing out of his mind, but that start to the season, 24-25, right now looms incredibly large. And the Kings, all those Kings games that they just absolutely, game 3 of the season, they lose in overtime to the Kings. Then they lose, the Kings beat them by 15, the Kings beat them by 10, the Kings beat them by 13. Going 0-4 against the Kings could be the difference in the whole year. You win one of those games, and you're tied with the Kings in the standings. You win 2 of them, and you're the 5 seed right now. Just a brutal spot. All right, Damonza, what's next?
Crazy. Bronny James is reportedly entering the transfer portal after the USC's coach left for SMU. LeBron didn't confirm that, but he says Bronny's got some pretty tough decisions to make moving forward. You said you think one reason LeBron wants to stay in LA is because of Bronny. So with that being said, do you expect LeBron to follow Bronny wherever he goes?
So here's what I would say. If I were a diehard Laker fan, I would be monitoring this. One of the reasons that I think it has been just assumed that LeBron is going, who's a free agent this offseason, if he wants to be, that LeBron is going to stay with the Lakers this offseason is because Bronny's at USC. Well, if Bronny leaves, could I see a scenario where Bronny's college decision and LeBron's free agency decision are correlated? This is based on no insider intel, just logic as a father. Yeah. If all of a sudden Damonza was thinking about moving from LA and I had the opportunity to pick any city to work in this summer, would I at least talk with him and be like, hey, where are you looking at? Is there a possibility we could work in the same city? Of course. Obviously, of course. And so I think the chances of LeBron leaving the Lakers, however small they are, increase slightly if Bronny ends up deciding to transfer from USC. All right, let's go on to Wright-Ins, Damonza. Go ahead.
Oh, where could you see Bronny going?
So I don't know. So that part, and I don't think he's going to declare for the draft. And I know a lot of people are connecting him to Duquesne. So if people don't know why he's being connected to Duquesne, here's why. Duquesne, when LeBron was a junior in high school, Duquesne hired Frank Dambrot, the coach of LeBron's high school team, to be their head coach, Duquesne University. Hoping that if Bron ended up not going straight to the NBA, maybe he'd go there. LeBron's teammate, Drew Joyce III, from that high school state championship team, then ended up becoming a coach himself, ended up being the assistant at Duquesne, and just got the head coaching job at Duquesne because Dambrot, 20 years later, retired this past offseason after they won their first NCAA tournament game. So, because of the family connection, I know some people have connected Bronny to Duquesne. He'd obviously be featured more there. He'd be one of the highest ranked recruits that team's ever gotten. So I think that is on the board. I'm not saying I think that's likely, but I do think that this is something intriguing to follow over the summer, particularly depending on how the Lakers season ends. All right, let's go to Wright-Ins.
All right, we're going to start off with Joel. Joel Embiid returned to action versus, I love that graphic, returned to action versus OKC Tuesday and came up clutch late. Embiid was visibly exhausted at the end of the game, but Philly still has 6 games to get him back up to speed. The 76ers' ceiling with Embiid back is?
Their ceiling is winning the title. They have an excellent roster. Well-rounded. Maxi's, great. Daryl's done a really good job of filling out the roster. And Embiid was playing the best basketball of his career before he got hurt. Now, it's going to be a really tough putt, but their ceiling is they could win the title. Now, they've never even made a conference finals since Iverson was there. But that's their ceiling. All right, next.
If you thought the Bucks losing to the Wizards was bad, things got even worse against the Grizzlies. After back-to-back losses to lowly opponents, Doc now has more losses than Adrian Griffin had in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's problems are
Right now, too many to count.
Impatient.
Doc has now blamed the trainers, the bus driver, the traveling
bus driver?
secretary for the team. Yeah, he was like, we do everything bad on the road, like from top down. Doc is finding people to blame. Dame's not playing right now. The Bucks, the upside is still there, but man, oh man. Right
Doc
now,
Rivers.
they look like a
Coming from a
team that
Celtics
is
fan.
not ready to compete for a championship. All right, next.
The Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Timberwolves are all neck and neck in the West with only a few games left. Who pulls away? The 1 seed in the West will be.
Well, so Minnesota has at the Suns, at the Lakers, home for the Wizards, at the Nuggets, home for the Hawks, home for the Suns left. That's a brutal finishing kick. The Nuggets have at the Clippers, then home for the Hawks, at the Jazz, home for the Timberwolves, at the Spurs, at the Grizzlies. That is not a tough finishing kick. And the Thunder, they've got at the Pacers, at the Hornets, home for the Kings, home for the Spurs, home for the Bucks, home for the Mavs. That's mediocre. When is Jamal Murray, Daniel should know this, when is Jamal Murray supposed to be back? He's questionable for tonight. So for the Nuggets got to get Jamal Murray back. Right now, my money would, assuming Jamal Murray comes back, my money would be on Denver. If not, I think Oklahoma City could steal it.
Yeah, he's
I also
questionable
think,
for Thursday.
Yep, and I also think that the number 1 seed, because you don't get to draft your playoff opponent, the number 1 seed might not be that valuable depending on how the postseason, the play-in tournament ends up. All right, next.
Last week we saw Luka chirp the Kings for not drafting him. Tonight he faces the Hawks, who traded his rights on draft night. Are we in store for another dominant performance tonight versus the Hawks?
Oh,
Luka
definitely. I have a 35-point triple-double. The Hawks can't, they're not going to guard, and the Mavs just lost. Luka still is, I think, holding out, tiny hope that he could win league MVP. Yeah, so I think this is going to be a monster stat night for Luka. All right, last.
The men's and women's Final Fours are coming up this weekend. What are you most looking forward to? Your favorite college headline heading into the weekend is?
Well, listen, I hope that we get. It looks like UConn's going to run away with it on the men's side of things. I think UConn's big men against Zach Edey would be fun to watch, but I'm more interested in the women's side of things. Paige and UConn are a great story, but I'm rooting for Caitlin. South Carolina is going to annihilate NC State. And then you have Caitlin against South Carolina. And I want people to understand what South Carolina has done over the last few years. So, South Carolina women's basketball in the 2022 season was 35-2 and won the national championship. Okay? South Carolina women's basketball last year was 36-1, and the one loss was in the semifinal to Caitlin Clark. South Carolina women's basketball this year is 36-0, and the huge favorite to win the national championship. Okay? So in South Carolina women's basketball last, let me do the math here, 79 games. They are, is that right? No, that is right. Hold on. Yeah. They're 78-1, and the one loss came to Caitlin, right? And they won a national title and are poised to win another one. If they end up being over the last 2 years, Damonza, just the last 2 years, right now they're 36-0 this year. If they make the national championship game, they're 37-0. Last year they were 36-0 going into the semifinal, and Caitlin beat them. If they end up the last 2 years 73-2, with both losses being to Caitlin Clark in Iowa, that will be one of the most remarkable. It's pretty unbelievable, man. They win the title. They are then the undefeated defending national champions, and she beats him in the Final Four. They then come back the next year. They're undefeated going into the Final Four. If she then beats him in the championship game to win the title, oh my goodness gracious. Be unbelievable. All right, answer listener questions next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? I got to run, so we'll do this quick. The producers tell me that Luka having a 34-point triple-double is plus 310. I mean, that's a square bet, but I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to have 35 points and a triple-double tonight against the Hawks.
He's a spiteful little guy, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a little spiteful dude.
It's one of the things I like about him. Damonza, read G&G Productions questions because it's about Luka.
G&G Productions said, Nick, what separates guys like Luka that play similar to LeBron from being as dominant as he was in his prime?
Well, I think Luka is as dominant as LeBron was offensively in his prime. The difference is LeBron in his prime was the best defensive player in the league. And so Luka's a better range shooter than LeBron was early in his career. LeBron obviously a far better athlete. But LeBron also, LeBron didn't win a championship until he had better teammates around him. And we've seen Luka carry a team to the conference finals. I think that's legit. And then ask the follow-up that the producers wrote in there under the G&G production question.
Yeah. Is that why Luka hates the Suns too? Because they drafted Ayton over him?
Well, I think he hates the Suns because of Devin Booker. I actually think it's just about dislike for Devin Booker. Wow.
Yeah, no, I don't want to say I hate the Suns, but I really don't like Devin Booker. And I don't. Like, he's pretty annoying.
You know what?
But I do like KD, though.
I get it. I understand and by the way, Booker played great last night. He's been playing great. He had 50 the other night. He's been playing great. All right, I got to run. I got to get to work. I also have to have my my suit jacket tailored for this wedding that I'm having. I was supposed to do that to Monze a long time ago. I just realized today it's not done yet. So I got to run. See you guys on TV today. Great job today. See you guys. What's right? Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor, go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish, 10:35, 10:40. It sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.